Look, it's not news to you that everyone is talking about Geese, right? Like at this point, Geese are the talk of the town. This band, it's their third record, Getting Killed. That's the album that seems to have kind of put them on the map. And today we're going to talk to Lisa Christiansen and Emilie Hanskamp. And Emily's a fan, and Lisa's a bit skeptical about Geese. And I kind of actually like that dynamic because every time that I'm a fan of Geese, I'm on board with what Geese are doing. And then every time that Emilie and I are like, oh man, we really love this thing, Lisa's like,
so you know how people who are like, want to hear me do some fun voices? How about this? How about that? It sounds like it sounds like that.
But what I really liked about this conversation is the kind of generosity that comes together as we sort of talk about what Geese mean for this moment in rock. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but it's been a little while since bands have had a big moment. Like rock bands have sort of defined a culture. And Geese are kind of on their way to doing so. And I'm interested in the fact that they can get there. The idea that like all this hype around them is kind of pushing them to that place. And so this conversation kind of clarified for me that like, you know what? That's actually a really valuable thing. I hope they enjoy this conversation. Get into it. Representing Team Geese, literally in a Geese t-shirt, Emilie Hanskamp is here, and also repping the what the flock is going on. Do you get it? the flock is going. Lisa Christiansen, the skeptic among us. Hello to both of you. How's it going, y'all?
Hello, good morning, happy holidays, Christmas, and Hanukkah, and everything.
Well, the occasion, the season, the reason for the season is actually Cameron Winter, but I take your point. Okay, so here's what Geese-mas. I wasn't familiar with this, but that's a thing that you're familiar with.
Hot girl summer, Cameron Winter. We know how to do this.
Well, okay. Before we actually get into the Geese conversation, I think the only way to do this is to listen to some Geese. So let's start with Taxes. Emilie started singing before the song even began. Emilie, you're the biggest Geese fan I know. Getting Killed is the album of the year for you. Tell me about how we ended up here. What makes this record the big one?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that is a great karaoke choice, out of experience. This record, to me, it's the freedom on this record that really grabs you. It is freedom in song structure, freedom in musicianship, freedom in its lyricism, freedom in Cameron Winter's voice, which is this warbling, often almost slurring. Then you go to vibrato that then explodes into these guttural screams. I mean, there's a looseness and a flexibility to it. You can hear influences, but they're not like directly transcribed, as he would say. It's just such a visceral, emotional experience that kind of you step into and it swallows you whole. And I think that's what really reaches out and grabs you. And for people like myself who've been following Geese along for years now, it sort of has always felt like they've always had something special. But I kind of liken it to like two people across the room at a club. You see each other, you're like, ooh, I'm really into that. Like, this is interesting. You're kind of dancing closer and closer. And on Getting Killed, it feels like you've reached the center of that dance floor. You're in a full-blown tango. They have reached kind of the summit and the peak of their kind of, they've hit their stride here. And I feel like that's what we're getting with Getting Killed, is like they've really found their sound and their identity as a band. And it's so exciting to witness.
I think that the thing that I'm reacting to is the size of cultural reaction, right? So this record comes out in September, 9.0 review in Pitchfork, major features in Rolling Stone, GQ, and then suddenly like the tickets to see Geese go for, from $40 to it's $1,000 in the resale market. And then I open up Instagram and this is the stuff that I start to see.
Oh, I'll say this band because my son went to see them last night. A band called Geese. Ooh. He's obsessed with them and has gotten me obsessed with them.
They freak me out because they're so young and I can't believe it. Also like the best drummer maybe in a band right now.
But then slowly, month after month, I met men on their way to a Geese show. Always on their way to a Geese show. Oh, I can't come tonight, I have the Geese show.
Always on their way to the Geese show. So you heard Cillian Murphy be like, oh man, I've been so taken by Geese. And then you heard Dijon be like, man, they're so young, they freak me out. And then Emily Bonani had this, she's a TikTok creator who had this wonderful video that went viral. It was like all these men on their way to the Geese show. Lisa, I get the sense that for you can see a little bit of where Emily Bonani is coming from. Like this idea of like, suddenly I'm hearing so much about Geese. Where do you make of all the attention that Geese is getting right now?
Yeah, and it really just seemed to start from, I know that they've been around, but for me, all of a sudden, boom, I couldn't stop hearing about Geese. And I understand what
You
Emily
sound
means
aggrieved
there.
about it. Yeah.
Well, okay, so you go through that process where you keep hearing about it and you're like, okay, fine, I'll listen. And then you listen and you go, really? Oh, okay.
What does Geese
Um,
sound like to you?
it sounds kind of like you know how you watch like making of an album in a band in the studio, and they're like, "What about this? What about this? Let's try this." And that's what it sounds like. I don't know. I guess they were happy with what they had, but it sounds unfinished to me. It sounds like, let's experiment with this. You know how people who are like, want to hear me do some fun voices? How about this? How about that? It sounds like it. It sounds like that.
I'm delighted in the away team and home team sort of dynamic that is going on here, because I actually think the very thing that you're reacting to is for some people a plus. Like this idea of, oh, they're working through something. Like it's not at a point of arrival. It's at a point of like, oh, we're just kind of investigating a thing, and you're like, cool, let me know what you find. Whereas Emily's like, oh, I want to be a part of this discovery. Like you guys are, I'm interested in this. I'm interested in the fact that you guys are reacting in such different ways to the same thing. I want to play. I want to play a clip here because it's worth noting that, like you mentioned, the Geese have been around for a few years, but the first couple albums, like there was some reaction, critical acclaim, but not to the level of this one. But then Cameron Winter, the lead singer, who we've talked about his voice a bunch, puts out the solo record last December, and then this song, "Love Takes Miles," ends up on so many different best of lists. Let's just play a little bit of "Love Takes Miles" right now.
Watching the bells, watching the lights. What I want is far away. Talk to the moon, flatten her down. Make her watch the wind all night. She can't wait.
I'm clearly among the people for whom like that voice does something and it works for me, but also Cameron Winter solo record Heavy Metal comes out. Tell me about what that does for their trajectory, Emily. How does that change the band's trajectory?
Yeah, definitely would position Cameron Winter's solo record, Heavy Metal, as Geese's breakthrough record. Because if you listen to the trajectory of Geese's sound, they were always sort of playing with these different ideas, like I was mentioning before, kind of trying to find their identity. Then Cameron Winter drops Heavy Metal. Yeah. And the highlights on that album are kind of twofold. It is his voice being more forward in the mix, higher in the mix, and his lyricism. Those take the spotlight. And those now were then kind of moved over as well and applied on the new Geese album. These are the new focuses as well. And so I think that is really what people resonate with, is that voice. I mean, I remember, I think it was a SoundCloud link. It was $0. That was back in 2024, and it came through somehow on a blog. I played it, and it's like the open note is holding one note, that vibrato, and immediately, to your point, Elamin, I was just like, wow, what is this?
What is he doing?
What is he doing? And then, the lyricism there. You make me feel like a dollar in your hand. You make me feel like a $0 man. I was just so wrapped right away. And I think that it took hold of the culture in that way as well. I mean, I flew to New York to see this guy play piano in March because I was like, what is happening here? This is unlike anything I've ever heard. And I think his specialty is really standing in that perfect sweet spot middle space between being knowable, completely knowable, and not being kind of relatable at all. And I think that's where the interesting stuff happens in music. I can't completely understand where they're going or what they're saying all the time. It's a mix of like absurdity and being literal. It's a mix of the silliness and heaviness. And I think that's what he taps into there emotionally, and that's what they carried through in Getting Killed, and they found that success by leading into that fully.
As Will Ferrell said in that one movie, no one knows what it means, but it's provocative. It gets the people going. I mean, like, there was that moment. You mentioned flying to New York to see Cameron Winter play a piano. He played Carnegie Hall a few weeks ago, and the images sort of start coming out of that show. And who's on stage but Paul Thomas Anderson himself? He's holding a camera. We don't know what's happening there. Michael Stipe's in the audience. There's this sort of idea of like being compared to, there's a fish like going on, fish, PH, fish. Like there's a relationship that is kind of developing to this band as they kind of find their groove in their evolution. We should say also earlier this year in his newsletter, Nick Cave, who is like so withholding with his praise. He called Cameron Winter and Heavy Metal a racked and wondrous thing. But also, Lisa, we got to acknowledge the fact that like not everyone is going to listen to Cameron Winter's voice and go, oh, that's for me. I'm interested and on board with this. What do you make of Cameron Winter as a singer?
Well, first of all, let's just talk about the misrepresentation with that album title. If you wanted to try and hear my personal favorite voice, which goes, which is a death metal sound, there was none of that.
It's
you
called
know,
heavy
you
metal.
start-
There's no heavy metal in it. Yeah.
start to finish, there was nothing. So first of all, I just want to take issue with that. And I mean, I don't hate his voice. I mean, I'm a Smiths fan, so Morrissey has always been there, and to surprise us with some kind of weird way to sing a song. I don't know. Mostly I find it kind of flat. Do you not hear a kind of "I'm just whining, it's okay, I'm up"? I don't know that. I don't hate it, but I don't understand. I mean, I am so impressed when someone is so in love with something. And Emily, I am so excited for you that you are having the most wonderful time. And I'm trying. Believe
Yeah.
me. I'm
I
trying.
I see it and I respect it. And it's also that pressure to be on the hype train when everyone's excited about something. I'm like, I want to be excited too. I understand that.
Oh,
but sometimes you're not. You
There
know?
are many hype trains that they pass me by and I go,
You wanna get on,
This
but-
is gonna go
Yes.
without me. I'm not boarding on
Yep,
this one.
totally fair.
But I think that's why we wanted to have the two of you on, because I think sometimes when the hype train gets so big, the reaction is actually to the hype train, right? To the idea of okay,
Totally.
this large piece of culture that's kind of crash in the middle of all of this, we feel the pressure to respond to it and say, oh, this is a culturally definitive moment, and not everyone is gonna see the same thing in it. And we should say that it feels like every 10 years or so there comes a band, that kind of catapults itself to the center of music, right? And you had that with Nirvana, and then you had that with the Strokes, and you had that with White Stripes, you had that with Tame Impala, and then you kind of get here. But the thing that made those bands big is they were also a little bit accessible. And I don't think that's the same thing with Geese, Emily. So talk to me about the idea that even though they're actually a little bit inaccessible, they still managed to sort of take up that space, in that sort of 10-year renewal cycle.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I understand that contextualization, and it makes sense to draw those parallels. But that's what I think is so fresh about Geese, is the way Cameron Winter has talked about it. Is there's a difference between transcribing your musical influences and feeling them. And I think what we hear from Geese is they are feeling their musical influences and they are translating those through their music. So I think that doesn't come with an accessibility necessarily that we found before.
Yeah.
But they are in that sweet spot of I was saying before, the lyricism will go from these absurd lines like a sailor on a big green boat, and that becomes this memeable line, right?
line.
Which is such a beautiful line. It's absurd, but it's also, packed with meaning. So everything has those kind of two sides to the coin. He said, specifically in his lyricism, he likes to kind of jostle in that way so that you never can completely grasp it. And that makes you engaged. It keeps you engaged. It keeps you intrigued. It keeps you wanting to turn the stones over and saying, what is going on here? Why is this pulling me in? What is the mirror that it's holding up to me? Instead of just being this very literal presentation of what's going on inside an artist's mind,
At least I gotta say, 15 years ago, Sam Roberts was very sad, and he said the kids don't know how to dance to rock and roll. They kind of do. They're dancing a little bit to rock and roll. There's a relationship to rock music that wasn't there even 5 years ago. Does that feel like something that gives you hope in any kind of sense?
Well, I'm a rock fan, so yeah. I mean, every few years, but part of me is also, hey, quit trying to make fetch happen. It's that forced feeling sometimes that I'm feeling that I'm supposed to be there with it. And it was you're right. I remember this with the Strokes. I remember this with Vampire Weekend. It was just what's wrong with you if you are not on board with this? And then you start to feel oh yeah, maybe there is something wrong with me and I missed something along the way. Was there some sort of puzzle piece that if only I had it, I could plug it in and then I'd get it? So I feel maybe there's some people, like you said, the inaccessibility, that sometimes you feel I got to work a little bit harder. And I don't know if music should be that for people. I think it's lovely when it hits you, but I don't know if we should all be working really hard to try and see if we can somehow find it, because we are all so different in what we want.
Okay, I just want to play a little bit of the song Cobra, because it's probably Geese at their most accessible. So let's just hear a little bit of Cobra right now. Okay, Emily, the way that people are talking about Geese and the fact that they could change the sound of popular music to come, that's a lot of pressure. Like GQ says that it's a band that's potentially on a historic run. I got like 30 seconds here. How do you see this album sort of rippling out to affect the rest of the moment?
I do see the major influences that they're going to have. There will be many people. It's like almost like a parallel you can draw with Brat. There will be people trying to seize control and trying to mimic that Brat line, and they won't be able to. There'll be a lot of imitators. But also, I'm mostly excited about the wider ripple effects of this. We've been talking about not the revival of rock in the sense that it was dead. We're talking in the mainstream. We're talking bands being invested in, that labels putting money into that, realizing that people want bands, whether it's Gen Zers, whatever whatever across the age spectrum, people want to see people getting into these basements and studios and making music together. Return the guitar, return the electric guitar. Like, let's get rock up the charts again. Let's reinvest in rock music and indie rock music. That, to me, maybe you don't like Geese. It's okay if you don't like Geese. But if that can be kind of an outcome of this explosion this year, I think that is a beautiful thing. I would love to see that happen again.
I should just describe to the audience that as Emily was sort of giving that answer, she was just bouncing directly on her chair all the way to the ceiling at this point. So I just really appreciate both of you guys being here. Thank you for your time. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
I'll keep trying, Emily, and I'll get back to you.
I appreciate it. On behalf of Geesedom, thank you.
Before, okay, listen, I'm gonna let you go, Lisa, but thank you so much for your time, friend. I'm gonna hold on to Emily here, but Lisa, good to see you, pal.
My pleasure. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Emilie Hanskamp is a freelance music journalist. She's right here on Toronto studio. Lisa Christiansen is a reporter with CBC Vancouver's morning show, The Early Edition. That album, by the way, Getting Killed, is available wherever you stream your music. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. We'll be back tomorrow. We would love to see you then.